It is a beautiful day here in Happy Valley. Penn State is playing an in-state rival, and fans are all over campus. Yes, even against Villanova. But if this were a football movie, we'd be firmly in the montage segment. The team is working hard to improve, making mistakes, getting yelled at by coaches, coming together as a team, getting ready to hit the climax of the movie against the biggest rival in the biggest game. But this isn't a movie. This is reality. Penn State is 2-0. They're in the regular season. These games matter, and they'll face the Villanova Wildcats today at Beaver Stadium at 3:30. I'm Thomas Frank Carr with your overly dramatic introduction to the Penn State Football Tailgate Show. Welcome now to Kyle F.
Hello there.
Those cheers are absolutely for us, and not that somebody just hit a bingo over there. Kyle, this has been an interesting, fascinating start to the 2025 regular season, and nothing like what I expected, and I think what many of us expected from the Nittany Lions this year. Number 2 team in the country, number 3 team in the country to start the year.
One of the best.
One of the best. Climbed to number 2, I think, on consensus so far. And yet, they have not looked their best.
Nope.
And they have, I don't want to say struggled, but not dominated against teams like Nevada and FIU. It has caused some discomfort and disquiet in the fan base. And
words
yet,
to use.
There has been a clear message from Penn State head coach James Franklin that this staff is still working on stuff, as if it were somewhat still in training camp. So, hence the montage opening. The team has been trying to work on things while winning football games.
They have.
How's that been going, Kyle?
Well, before we get to how it's going, let's discuss the fact that we're outside and it's like 80 and beautiful out here today in Happy Valley. The game day forecast is brought to you by W.R. Hickey Beer Distributor. Currently, temperature-wise outside, it is 78 and sunny with no chance of rain. It is going to be at game time 81 degrees.
Yeah.
It is sun. There is few clouds in the sky.
The clouds are decorative.
Yes.
Yeah, they're the kind of clouds you're looking up and you're like, oh, that makes it pretty.
If you're 21 and you go to Penn State, this is what you call tailgate weather.
Oh, yeah.
This is perfect weather
If you're
outside.
61 and you're at a Penn State tailgate, this is tailgate weather for sure.
We just got waves, people, so they agree with us here on the show. But, yeah, it has been a weird season for Penn State. They got off to a hot start in the first game against Nevada and kind of – they won, but it wasn't like I was happy with it. And people were like, oh, well, you're going to come out against FIU. You're going to dominate. We thought they were going to put up 60 points.
Right.
And then as Drew Aller noted this week, he said, I missed throws in the first half.
Yeah.
He didn't play his best. Penn State ended up winning the game, shutting out the Panthers 34-zip. So they won, but like, But it's kind of been that way for a bunch of teams around the nation, where even the Georgia Bulldogs couldn't really knock off Austin P well. They won 28-6 this past week. So it's kind of been up and down for everybody except for, like, Oregon has put up 70 points or so.
Yeah.
I guess it's been bad for UCLA, but we all knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, it's a little bit different expectations for UCLA than for Penn State.
Yes.
So here's the thing, and you have mentioned that. I think that's a fair point to talk about other teams and their perception versus Penn State. Here's what's going on. Nationally, there is this conversation of Penn State's playing a cupcake schedule before they play Oregon. And then other teams, they have not dominated these teams. Now, their goal is to win those big games.
Yes.
So in the middle of this story now, where we are is Penn State looks not like the number 2 team in the nation. I think that's fair to say for a lot of people. And they may still prove to be that because they're using these games to make themselves better. But what if they don't win those games?
Yeah.
And they don't look good here. And then we have this perception battle of maybe they are a good team. Maybe they are a good team and they are the 8th best team in the country or whatever. They make the playoff. And then the perception war is squarely not on the way for the Nittany Lions to be a part of this, right? Like to be winning the perception battle. Does that matter is the question for me.
I as someone who is a transplant to Happy Valley, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anywhere because no one can ever be as good as people want you to be. That is the general consensus across sports is teams always think, unless you are an underdog, unless you are the biggest of long shots and you win eventually, you are always kind of considered to be okay and everyone's disappointed because you're never good enough. No team is ever good enough. Can you tell me one team, T. Frank, that has been good enough in their entire history where fan base has been completely satisfied with how their team has played? The best teams, the ones who have gone almost undefeated, still aren't good enough.
Yeah, it's
so nothing's ever good enough for any fan base.
If you want the absolution that your team is, if you want absolution, get religion, because there's no absolution in football. And there's always something that's slightly wrong with your team that you're going to be worried about, because fear is normal.
And the problem
not to get too deeply psychological here, but that's just like the fear of the unknown when you actually play a good team.
And for a lot of Nittany Lion fans, they felt this past season the big upgrade was you get a defensive coordinator. You bring in Jim Knowles. You're like, okay, we're feeling good. Tom Allen left for a new situation. We have Jim Knowles, the best defensive coordinator in the nation. Well, our defense should be great. And they have been great so far. They literally held a team scoreless last week. It was as good as you can get. They had turnovers. They held a team to no points. That's what you need. That's number one. Number two is, okay, we want to get receivers. Penn State goes out and gets 3 receivers. I saw somebody walking by in a Trepania jersey a couple minutes ago. So, you got receivers in. You've got your running backs. You have your quarterback. You have your offensive line. There is no point of weakness on this team. But you don't win by 70 points. And people are like, well, how dare they not win by that many? Yeah. You don't have to win by 75 points every week. There's no need to. Why do we need to win by 70 points every week? If you win by 34 or 74, the result is still the same. It is a 1-win versus no-win mark. That's the only difference.
So in the long run, here's where I'll push back. In the long run, James Franklin has talked about they want to be more explosive on offense. They haven't met their explosive number goals. So if you lose a game, right, and then you're going into the College Football Playoff Committee rankings, and you are somewhere between 7 and 5, right? Or you're maybe, let's say, you're on the verge of getting a bye or whatever. I don't know how they changed the rules at this point, because it's not going to be a ranking system based on whatever. I think they're just going to pick the 12 teams at this point. I think that's going to work. So in the ranking metric, if you have the same rank as somebody else, but you're less explosive, or all the metrics they look at, which they don't talk about, then do you risk not being ranked as high at the end of the season? And so these are the conversations and the pluses and minuses that are the subtle undercurrent, I think, of the disquiet. Because I think fans are right to point out, and fans have a sixth sense of when something isn't right, and maybe they just don't know exactly what it is, or they may think they know what it is, and it might not exactly be that thing. But Penn State is intentionally muddying the water, according to their head coach, that they are specifically working on aspects of their offense in order to make sure they're ready to win those big games, which, if it pays off, brilliant strategy.
Yeah.
Brilliant strategy. But I don't know that we've ever I've never seen this coaching staff specifically, or I've never heard anyone openly say something like that about their non-conference season. I have not seen that. Now, again, they haven't had to play a Virginia Tech, which was on their schedule at one point. They haven't had to play an Oklahoma State. They haven't had to play a West Virginia or any of those teams. So there is that aspect of they can do this. But it's uncharted territory for a lot of people, I think.
It is. It's uncharted territory for a lot of people, but I have something to say. When fans are like, we need to win by 70, so if we get in a situation where we're trying to fight for a bye later on, I have a suggestion for Penn State, and a suggestion for teams that are in that spot. Just win all the games. At that point, it doesn't matter. Takes it out of it.
That is the ultimate goal of every team. 1-0 every week.
I don't care if you win 7-0 every week. If you win every week, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah. So over the next 70, 80 minutes here, we're going to be talking about what the Penn State offense has done. What have they been working on? What are the things that they need to work on today? At least what's left on the checklist. And then the defense. We'll look at head coach James Franklin has said they're not playing as fast as we want them to. I'll try to dive into the tape and explain what that means. And by dive in the tape, I don't have any video to show you here today, guys. But to actually explain what he means by that based on what we've seen watching the film over the last 2 weeks. And then what's most concerned? Are there actual concerns? Are there things that Penn State fans should be concerned about? What are the things that we want to see today to maybe correct those concerns? And then somebody here in the chat, I apologize. I should have highlighted this. But if you're listening on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, you can always get. This is one of our less interactive shows because we're dual streaming this on 99.5 The Bus as well. Levi says, what would you guys like to see from Penn State to feel more confident going into Oregon? That's going to be part of our key matchups coming up next segment. Is something that I think think is very important to the Oregon game and generally the season when it comes to this team and how they handle certain situations, that they're going to see similar vibes from other teams, similar looks. Maybe not exactly this defense, but if you get looks at it, you should, against this team. Yeah, you should do pretty good today. And so that's kind of, I would say, for me, like that's what the importance of this game is. Villanova does do things that will challenge the mental aspect of a team. And for a veteran team, on offense specifically, that has so many older football players from the offensive line, the quarterbacks, across the board, they got 3 seniors to play receiver. So this is all seniors on offense. They should be able to handle the communication today. Spoiling the surprise here, Levi. No. You got me getting too close to the good stuff. I want to make sure people stick around for that later in the show.
You know what? We'll go to break, and then we'll get to Levi's stuff. That's what we're going to do here on the show. So coming up, we have key matchups. That's after the break, though. Right now, we're heading into the break. We have your upcoming open practice highlights because Mr. Thomas Frank Carr puts those together to give you an idea of what practice looked like this week. So he's got your cover with open practice highlights coming up by Tri-County Tag Services here on the Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, and streaming live on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel.
I'm Thomas Frank Carr from Blue White Illustrated, and this is your Penn State football practice update. Want to get our practice insights each week as they unfold? Join Blue White Illustrated right now for just $1 and try us out for a week, plus a complimentary year of access to The Athletic included. Plenty of fans want to see the Penn State wide receivers include young players in the lineup rather than just the transfer trio of Kyron Hudson, Devontae Ross, and Trevor Pena, plus veteran Liam Clifford. While we haven't seen them with the first team unit yet, young guns Tysier Denmark and Kobe Howard are still hard at work with the top group of pass catchers each week at practice. This week, both Howard and Denmark caught impressive sideline routes from starter Drew Aller. Beyond that, things remain largely the same with the offense. Khalil Dinkins leads the top tight end group with Luke Reynolds and Andrew Rappelier. Nick Singleton and Katron Allen practice with Aller, and the starting offensive line rolls through the same top group. Further down the depth chart, some things may be starting to take shape, but it is hard to tell with the Nittany Lions. For the first time this season, all 3 of the second-string running backs, Corey Smith, Quentin Martin, and Cam Wallace, were working together with backup Ethan Grunkmeyer on handoff drills. Each has had bumps and bruises through training camp and the first few weeks of the season to keep the competition at a standstill. We might finally get to see Martin this week, as Penn State head coach James Franklin hinted at after practice. Along the offensive line, Egan Boyer continues to return from his injury and looks sharp in drills, though we don't get to see much of actual contact to gauge where he is in his return from injury. However, we might get to see Boyer, Martin, and other young players this weekend if the Nittany Lions starters take care of business and roll the Villanova Wildcats. We'll discuss more of that and how that might unfold next on the Penn State Football Tailgate Show. And he's not ready for that. And then you got to kind of work him into the game.
He loves the slot hitch. I mean, that is his throw. That is the one. I know we talk about the 15-yard out, which he can make, which not many people in college football can make, but the slot hitch is what gets him into his rhythm. And also, when you've got, and this is probably something we will continue to talk about because it's only been 2 weeks, but I don't want to say everything changed, but a lot of things changed when Trevor Pena slipped a tackle and ran 20 more yards. That is something we haven't seen for a long time, and that makes a difference. That opens some things up. That maybe pulls the safety back a little bit. So I think that's the stuff that we want to continue to see from those guys on the outside is to, sort of not just be the guy that's in position to create separation, catch the ball, and then get knocked out of bounds. Pena did some yak stuff. Luke Reynolds.
Yep.
Boy, that guy's really good. That guy's really good. He was able to do some stuff, caught it short of the sticks and made some first downs. Those are the things that you're looking to sort of blossom in this offense. And you're right. It's not just about the one guy.
Nate, we're not going to get to our final thing here in between the lines because we also talked about it of the defense. I just wanted something to balance out having a 60-minute conversation about the offense. Do you have any final thoughts here about the game and today's show and your thoughts about our conversations today?
Yeah, they need more of the things that Fitz was just talking about with the receivers. But you did see it, right? Reynolds, I think that was a third down, maybe his first catch, where he kind of stopped and started and picked up an extra 4 yards to get them a first down. And then if you look at the two, I think it was a 4-play drive, but the touchdown in the third quarter was a play by Pena to like make the catch, but that was all yak, right? That was a 8-yard catch that went for 30.
It was just another speed out that they had thrown all game, and then suddenly he breaks a tackle on it and then gets 30 yards.
This is Parker Washington touchdown against Ohio State a couple years ago, where he just was nothing special, but he made something happen.
And the Ross catch as well. I do think that Franklin's point about getting them all happening at the same time is important. Like I was a little surprised because I was going to come back with this earlier in the show, but like PFF's receiving ratings for everybody are bad for the first like they're average for the first two games. And I would assume it's a matter of ups and downs, right? A little bit of a roller coaster for those guys.
So a lot of what they've been doing is they have been completing the play that's there for them and not generating more or less or doing something more or less difficult than what you would expect of them. So if they make a small mistake, then it's a slight downgrade without much of a positive. So if you catch a 10-yard speed out and that gets you a first down, that's expected. So that's not going to get you a positive grade necessarily, if that makes sense.
Before we get into the key matchups, of course, we are here outside of 80-degree weather in Happy Valley, outside of Beaver Stadium. It is beautiful. It is gorgeous today. Coming up in 2 weeks' time, though, we'll be here for a 7:30 kickoff, Penn State versus Oregon. That is when the whiteout is going on, and you can get the ultimate whiteout experience right now. The Bus Rocks giving away the big whiteout experience. You can win tickets, parking passes to come here, and you can watch us live and then go to the game afterwards. So head over to the Bus Rocks mobile app right now for your chance to try and sign up to win the Ultimate Whiteout Experience, powered by with the Ultimate Whiteout Experience on the bus, sponsored by Glenn O'Hawbaker. But now, Mr. Thomas Frank Carr, sir, Penn State is 2-0 on the season.
Yep.
But as we hinted at the start of the show here on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, and streaming live on the Blue Illustrated YouTube channel, they haven't been convincing at all. Record, okay, sure. Haven't been great so far. So the question is, what is the most important factor to get going today? What are you watching for that Oregon game? So it is time for the key matchups powered by Stocker Chevrolet. So, sir, I turn the floor to you.
Yeah.
What is that key matchup?
So the key matchup to me today is the most interesting one, where there is actually something that is translatable to these future games. And Nevada runs a 3-down defense, meaning they have 3 defensive linemen. And what that does for the Penn State offense is that changes how they block up front in certain schemes. And so to me, it's more of a continued communication thing, because against FIU, they struggled at times to make sure they were blocking the right people and then getting to their second-level blocks, meaning you double team at the line of scrimmage.
Okay.
In almost every single offense, 2 guys block 1 defensive tackle, and then one of them goes to the second level to get a linebacker or a safety. And it's the going to the second level part that they have been struggling to do aggressively and actively, consistently. Now, they were better last week. I guess this defense, what they do, and I asked James Franklin about it, and he talked about it's not just a 3-down defense. It's what's called a 3-3 stack, which means the linebackers line up and hide behind the defensive linemen. So a lot of what happens in football is predetermined by where you line up on the field. And so if you're to the left of this guy, we assume you're going to be in that gap between linemen. If you're to the right of that guy, et cetera, et cetera. If you're lined up directly behind them, you can go either way, and so can the defensive linemen. So it puts stress on the communication of the offensive linemen to know, okay, I'm going to double team this guy, and then my teammate goes to the second level to get the linebacker, or I go to the second level. So it doesn't matter what type of defense. It's that communication that I think is the key matchup today, because their communication is going to be stressed. Even Villanova can cause stress in your communication if they do things that are, as James Franklin called it, chaotic.
So it's kind
chaotic
of
for a reason.
The Nittany Lions against themselves today. They have to communicate properly to exploit the defense, because they're going to kind of go everywhere. You said they can go left or right at most times. So it's, okay, where are they, and how can we push them and communicate at all times where they're going, where we're going,
and not just
force our way there.
And not just communicate, but communicate and attack.
Yes.
Be aggressive while you're doing it. That's what football is all about. Being correct in what you're supposed to be doing, and then go do it to the fullest extent of your body with and your physical ability to forcibly move another very athletic human where they don't want to go on the planet.
Yeah.
That is a difficult thing to do, but as a top team in the nation, they should be able to do that. And so the communication has caused them a little bit of hesitation. It's improved over time, and James Franklin also talked about how, they haven't gone full go in camp. They're unbelievably healthy at this time of the year.
I was going to say.
For one of those reasons. And if you're looking at camp as not just 4 weeks in August, but also the 4 weeks in September, then they're in the middle of going full contact and getting all these things worked out. That's what I want to see today is, okay, this is the third preseason. Like, we're going to make this comparison to the NFL. This is the third preseason game, and it used to be that the third preseason game was the full tune-up game. Now that it's what it used to be, because what it is now, it doesn't make any sense.
No.
So, in the third preseason game, every offense and defense in the NFL in the preseason used to put in their starting unit and use it as a dress rehearsal for the NFL season opener. And that's when you saw the starters go into the third quarter. You saw all the players play. You saw as much as they were going to show before game one. That's this game. That is this game of full go. And I guess from there, let's talk about the offense because it also gives them the opportunity. On the other hand, because I'm not James Franklin.
You are not.
I'm not Andy Kolnicki or Jim Knowles. So maybe they have a different plan. Maybe they're not going to have a full dress rehearsal. Maybe they're going to continue to work on things on offense. So I guess that's the other thing that beyond the actual things we know about what Villanova does, from the offensive perspective, there are things they can still work on.
Yes, that you have the wiggle room in games like this. And that's why I'm not as mad about Penn State not winning by 75 points, because you give yourself wiggle room to kind of do different things, test out some game plans, kind of figure out what's going on with your team and like what works, what doesn't work. This past week, we hinted Devontae Ross was our big guy we were watching for. Spoiler, he got involved a lot. He did a lot of things positively. They used him in a bunch of different ways in gadget plays, and then, of course, he caught an incredible touchdown catch. So we got to see him more. The week one was Trevor Pena, Kyron Hudson, watching how they worked. So Penn State's working everything in, figuring out what does work, what doesn't work, what Aller's great at right now, and how he goes with these receivers because, they've had a few months together, but these are their first 2-3 games together. Gameplay speed is very different from practice speed.
Yeah.
So now we're getting to see what they all look like as one big unit. We saw it this past week, especially where Luke Reynolds got a lot more involved. Devontae Ross got more involved. And it was less so Pena and Hudson, but we've all seen what they all can do in their own right, in their own way with this offense. The question then is, what does everyone look like as one whole unit when they're all flowing together versus just kind of bits and pieces here and there?
Yeah, and so I think you phrased that, and I think the characterization is right, where week one was let's get the offensive rhythm in the passing game going and establish that connection. Check, done. That was, I think Penn State fans wanted more points and explosive plays.
They did.
And, when you tell them what Nevada was doing, they say, I don't care. And I think that's also fair that, if you want to take whatever you want from one of these teams, this is where we're also trying to build a mental picture of what Penn State's ceiling is in certain areas. And then week two, they try for the explosive plays.
They did.
And it looked uneven. So I think that here's the thing.
What do you
Are they going to work on explosive plays again? That would be my question, because if you're talking about the passing game, I think even in the second half, when they kind of pivoted to more of a ball control, let's get Drew Aller in rhythm, Luke Reynolds got involved, the tight ends got involved. We've seen that part of the offense, right? We know that story. We know that works. They were able to get the rhythm passing with the receivers. So the last thing, I guess, for me is, in terms of just the pure passing game, the drop-back passing game, is that deep ball. Because the one thing, I guess I don't know that they're going to use all the things. They don't need to use all the things
They don't.
in terms of read option or some of the other aspects of the playbook. There's no reason to use those yet. So the things that kind of your basic passing attack, if it were me and I really want this deep passing game to work, I might be working on that today. But I don't get the vibe that that's going to be what they do.
Well, so that's where I wanted to get this to you, because last week it felt like they were forcing the deep play a little bit. It felt a little bit Like, we need to work on it, so we're gonna work on it.
Yeah.
Which is okay, but to an extent, I think like FIU knew they were gonna try and do it a little bit.
Sure.
And
Sure.
to some extent.
Yeah.
And
so
they can't defend it well, but they were going to. But this week, maybe don't force it as much. Let it come in rhythm.
Yeah.
Because you said they got the rhythm passing attack going, and that was getting really good. So at some point, you can take your shots in there, work it in a little more as you're going, but find your flow first, get up by 14 in the first quarter, and then start to work it in here and there. Don't every 4 plays take a shot. Take it twice a drive, maybe. Twice every 12 plays.
Yeah.
Go for it. Work it like once every 2 or 3 down. Like, I don't know. Give it a little more breathing room. That's my big thing. Just don't. Why are we forcing things? I don't get it.
Because they're trying to work on it. Because if you're going here, okay. So here's the other thing. Here's the other part of this. There is a bit of a playbook on how you're going to attack Penn State defensively.
Yes.
And that is to flood underneath zones and as much as you can stack the box with that extra safety coming down in coverage. So if there's one way to back off a defense when they do that, and it's not just about the run game. It is also about stopping Aller's best ability, which is to read the defense, find the open player, and throw to the open player. But if you take away all the open players and underneath coverage, you have to throw deep. And so we've seen other teams do this before of taking away the underneath stuff. Oregon probably wants to come in here with that plan. So you got to show that if you're going to do that, there will be consequences. And that is when you have 3 deep players and you want to throw deep, you got to be able to throw deep. And they were, I think, trying to establish that in that game the other day, and were not able to consistently hit that until they got it later in the game, and they were able to get Devontae Ross on that long touchdown play. So it was incomplete. This is why I'm saying I wonder if they're going to try to do it again today, because the work was incomplete, I would say. And so does Drew Aller need another crack at that? Needs a couple more reps in the batter's box to make sure his stroke is right by the time he gets out there in the biggest teams, in the biggest spotlight.
I think he does. I think a big part of that, though, is Devontae Ross. We discussed it. He's a big play, a home run threat. He's the guy that, like, if someone's going to make that 80-yard touchdown catch, it's going to be him.
Yeah.
And he got into rhythm last week, which week 1 he wasn't. So last week feels like it was his week 1. His, like, okay, now I'm here. Now he returned a punt or 2, so he got involved in the passing game as well. Like, he started to get into it more.
Yeah.
So now feels like the week where you can really test it out with him. You can be like, okay, you've got some catches now. You and Drew have found a little bit of a rhythm. Drew knows he can trust you because you can make a one-handed catch going into the end zone with your right arm.
Yeah.
So he knows you can do that. Okay, cool. Now let's go for it today.
Yeah.
So they can, but it's going to be, I feel it should be more in rhythm versus forcing it to happen every play. Now you can work with it. Now you can use Devontae Ross. Pena's already worked with this offense, so now all 3 receivers are working well. The tight ends are going well. Katron Allen had a 67-yarder this past week, so everyone's kind of in rhythm. Everyone's flowing. Everyone's getting there.
Yeah.
Everyone's up to speed. It's just a matter of, can they complete them now? Can they complete the passes? Because Drew Aller had a couple where he missed.
And I do think that is an aspect of this deep passing attack that we have to acknowledge as well, that Aller has not been a good deep ball thrower over his career. I went back and I looked at just completion on passes over 20 yards in the last 3 years as a starter. So this would be, his 2023, 2024, and then obviously 2 games here in 2025. 22nd among quarterbacks with qualifying deep ball targets. And so, like, that's not 50th. Like, it is not terrible, but it is not something that he's necessarily, I would say, a strength of his, which is, ironic, given he's one of the most talented passers that Penn State has had under center from an arm strength and also arm talent. And strength and arm talent are 2 different things, where his ability to change his arm angle, his ability to layer balls, to understand how to throw the ball, the one that he still seems to be hesitant on is throwing the deep ball, which is why this came up this week when we talked to head coach James Franklin. I asked him about the coaching points of the deep ball. How do you coach that, in terms of what is his aiming point? Because there is this, throw. We talked about this last year, and because, again, deep balls were a conversation with this offense last year, and James Franklin said the coaching point, and to this point, for most college coaches and most NFL coaches, is you want to hit the guy perfectly in stride, and if you're going to miss, miss short.
Yeah.
Because you can draw a pass interference or you can get a contested catch.
And that's what happened this week with Devontae Ross.
That is what happened this
He
week.
caught one early in the game last week where there was a pass interference. Drew Aller threw it a little short. He had to slow up a little bit.
Sure.
There was a DPI. And then, of course, later he gets the touchdown, which was also DPI, but Ross made an incredible play.
On top of that, that 15 yards they got on the pass interference got them out of the shadow of their own end zone. That's great. If he hits Devontae Ross in stride, it might have been an 87-yard touchdown.
Yes.
So in the calculus, are you giving up 87 yards to get 15? The answer is we're all placing too much emphasis on the second half of the coaching point. Yeah. And I would say maybe the quarterback is too. Because the point is, throw the ball in stride, don't miss long. And if you do, or miss short. It's an or, it's not miss short all the time. There is the coaching point of we want you to hit the ball perfectly because that's ideal. That's what Drew Aller wants. That's what James Franklin wants. That's what Andy Kolnicki and his receivers, everybody wants that. It's I would say there is a tendency for Drew Aller to want to be perfect because he's really, really smart. And he understands the coaching and he wants to be right by the coaching. So, today, let it rip. Let it rip. That is for me, 2025, I said this in the offseason, his coaching point this year is bleep it and go play. Just let it rip. You don't need to be perfect. If you look at the best quarterbacks, they make mistakes, but they come back and they still throw the ball. They still make that play because they know they can. And I do think that in there, we've seen Drew Aller have elements of that, but he hasn't had to pull that out of them yet because the minute that there's okay, the deep ball's not working, let's just get the offense in rhythm and score some points. And so they don't have to push through that like they did last week.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
As someone who's still learning football a lot more, and many fans want to understand the idea of Drew Aller. Whenever he is passing the ball to some extent, it feels like he isn't throwing the ball quick enough or early enough or soon enough that you see a lot of the time. Drew Aller is sitting there, he's throwing the ball, but he's not anticipating where his player is going to be fast enough. Where Devontae Ross or Kyron Hudson or Trevor Pena, I think now he's up to game speed with them, so he needs to throw it a half second earlier. Because if he throws it a half second earlier to Ross, where he threw the ball to, where the first one was DPI, it's going to be a catch. He's going to catch it in stride.
Yeah.
He doesn't let it rip early enough. And this is something I saw a lot in NFL games this past week, watching way too much football, was a lot of the younger quarterbacks aren't anticipating and trusting their receivers to get to where they need to be.
Yeah.
So they're waiting a half second too late, and then it is slowed up a little bit. Then it is DPI, or it is an interception, or it's a drop pass, or something. Yeah. I think he needs to let it rip, but he also needs to just be okay, I can trust all of these guys to make catches.
And
we
I do
saw
think
Pena does.
And
Hudson,
I do think that there is that element that is there this year that maybe there wasn't there last year, which is he does trust those receivers to go up and get it, and he has the opportunity in these games to find the flow with them. And so I always say this about young players, and I'm not trying to excuse Drew Aller as a senior quarterback for having, a quirk in his game at this point. I'm not trying to say, he's a young person. But we are, if James Franklin is truthful about they are working on these things, and I would take him at his word having watched the offense and how specific they were. And as you mentioned, it felt like they were interrupting the flow of the game plan to throw the ball down the field. They're obviously trying to work on it. We're watching the mistakes in real time. We're not watching what they would think is the best possible opportunity to go score points and get touchdowns. So we're watching everything warts and all. And so what does it look like when they do all those things later and they have the rhythm and they have the plays to set up the plays to get the touchdowns? I haven't really seen a whole lot of game plan flow in terms of play call leading to something else. Although I will say that DPI that we're talking about from last week was it was a 6-man offensive line with 2 tight ends into block. It was a 1-person route. Yeah. So if you're saying oh no, they don't throw the ball deep enough, Andy Kolnicki gave Drew Aller no choice. You are throwing that ball on a double move to Devontae Ross. That's it. And so they are there are these elements that again we're kind of coming back to this point of they're working through it. I guess the other aspect of this game today, beyond that, would be kind of the game plan focusing on the tight ends. Because it morphed to that last week, but I don't think it necessarily was, let's get the tight ends involved. That catch and run ability, tackle breaking, Luke Reynolds, and I really think they need to get some of that confidence into Khalil Dinkins because athletically, he is as talented as Luke Reynolds from a height, weight, speed. He probably doesn't have the vertical ability, but like he runs a 4.5. I mean, he was on the freaks list. So having those two guys up in rhythm and in the passing game might also be part of this game today, and also would work into how do you get linebackers if you got 3 linebackers in the box? How do you get them out of the box? Playing hide and go seek with the offensive line. Well, you throw the tight ends in underneath coverage, and you just make them move outside. And I think that there's an aspect of, do you want that to be part of your offensive game plan today for a dual reason? And, I guess I would lean more that way because it's the last thing we haven't seen of that ball control. Truly, like the game plan is catch and run underneath and then open up explosive plays once they bite on something else.
Yes, and we will get some more Penn State stuff coming up in a moment here on 99.5, 107.5, The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, streaming live on the Villado YouTube channel. And we are, of course, brought to you by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships celebrating more than 40 years of service to the community. Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships has a vehicle to fit your budget and your transportation needs, home with a $1,000 lowest price guarantee with 20 locations throughout Pennsylvania. And now you're going to hear from Monsieur James Franklin coming up on the Coach's Corner, brought to you by Happy Valley Adventure Bureau.
Who has time for press conferences? That's why we've set aside the most important stuff for you. It's Coach's Corner, powered by Happy Valley Adventure Bureau.
Penn State pitched a shutout for the 5th straight season, knocking off the FIU Panthers 34-0 last weekend. The best side of the ball, special teams. Head coach James Franklin was asked about what he saw from the unit.
I think special teams is really making some game-changing plays. You saw Gabe's 68-yard punt. I don't know if I've ever experienced a reaction in the stadium for a punt like that. It was pretty cool to kind of hear the reaction. And then the block punt by Dom, obviously.
Special teams were not the only area we got to see explode onto the West Shore home field for the first time against FIU. Defensive end Zariah Fisher and nickel corner Zion Tracy both joined the action for the first time in 2025. James Franklin talked a lot about Fisher, a player who has suffered multiple injuries during his Nittany Lions tenure, but still made his way to Beaver Stadium's field.
It was just great having him back. Probably played a little bit more than what I wanted him to play in terms of kind of just rep count, but he looked quick off the ball. He looked confident. Mentally looked confident, physically looked confident, emotionally had a big smile on his face, was flying around having fun. So I think that was big for us. We're young at defensive end, so that experience and that leadership is important for us.
Quarterback Drew Aller owned up post-game to missing multiple throws throughout the first half that, quote-unquote, he should be making. Franklin noted the importance of Aller and his mood when it comes to his early game start.
It's a really important trait and skill for guys to learn is next play. Next play. No matter what happens the previous play, positive or negative, you must move on. You must move on to the next one. And I think a couple times that happened where you miss a really easy throw that he makes 99.9% of the time, and that frustrates you. And if you're not careful, that will linger.
True freshman Chaz Coleman captivated Beaver Stadium with a strip sack fumble recovery that he was 5 yards away from running in for a score late against Florida International. Coleman was rated as the highest performing true freshman of the week by PFF and other grading sites, something Coach James Franklin noted will not be the last time he does so.
He's also just a really, really humble, hardworking kid. I would anticipate him continue to get better and better and better. And then obviously he's also a guy that as we start to narrow this thing down, his reps will probably go up because rather than playing a 3 deep at defensive end, there's going to be some games where we play a 2 deep. So that may mean 8 to 10, 8 to 12 more reps for him. And I think the more reps and more plays and more opportunities and the more experience he gets, the more production will come.
That was your Penn State Coach's Corner. More from the Tailgate Show in a moment.
State College. Students are back. Football has kicked off. And the deals. Lease the 25 Hyundai Tucson for as low as $249 a month. Finance for as low as 1.99%.
So why don't you go first? I like your. And by the way, so we've got these on our kind of our docket over here, 3, 2, 1. I don't have a number of like number one stock up. It's just like these are the 3, and then you list
Yes.
1, 2, 3. So is that how yours is as well?
My stock up is like that. My stock down is ranked in order of who I think has the most stock down followed through the league.
You know
but
what?
The stock up,
Me
yeah,
too.
yeah. But
Nice.
the stock up is, I would say, equal across the board. Any of them could
Same.
be number one. But my first one that came to mind, and we figured that we decided to do this about an hour before the show, so I did not put a extensive amount of thought into this. But Luke Reynolds was a guy who really had a nice game on Saturday. He finished with a career high 7 receptions on 9 targets, eclipsed the 50-yard mark for the second time in his career. And it just makes me wonder, T. Frank, if he's going to become the tight end security blanket that Drew Allard likes. He went to, and Khalil Dinkins, I don't think we should completely wipe him out of that role after he had some drops on Saturday. But certainly I think that Luke Reynolds took advantage of the opportunities he got because it was a tough day for Khalil Dinkins. And so he's a stock up guy for me this week.
Yeah, and it feels like there was that drop by Dinkins, and then 2 drops, I'd say. James Franklin said that Penn State had, I think, 5 drops on the day. So
he said 5. Yeah, so actually, I wanted to talk to you about this, and let's just do it right now before we get any further. So I think PFF tracked Penn State with 1 drop.
1.
James Franklin tracked them with 5. And so it brings up this question that is ridiculous, but also valid, which is, what is a drop? Because you think it would be very easy for everyone to be on the same page. But in the football stat tracking world, it is not the case. So let me get it from you. A drop. What are we calling a drop, and why do you think there's a difference between Penn State's drop counter and PFF's drop counter, and perhaps your own personal one when you went back and watched the tape?
I think there's a 0 tolerance policy for drops for Penn State. That would be my characterization of it. If your hands touch the ball, you need to catch it, because that is theoretically within the frame, but then it becomes the difficulty of said catch.
Right.
Could you have caught it? Is it reasonable? What is the reasonable threshold for whether or not you caught that? And that's where I am. And I think the Khalil Dinkins one down the seam is a great example of that's 50-50 because so it was too high.
So Nate and I looked at each other.
It was not a good throw, right?
Yeah, Nate and I looked at each other and we were debating live, like, was it a drop or was it a bad pass? And it was a little bit of both for sure. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't want to take it too far away from Drew Allard, where he's got to layer that ball over the linebacker. There's a linebacker there. He has to fit that ball. They work on this all the time in the offseason. They got like a 10-foot net where you've got to throw over the net and into the basket.
On the Blue Illustrated YouTube channel, Kyle F., Thomas Frank Carr here on the Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships Tailgate Show. Sir, we were asked in the intermission here about the offense. We're going to do one quick point before we get on over to the defensive side of things. So what are you watching for with this offense? One last point we didn't get to just yet.
Yeah,
How about it?
It is about the deep ball again, and it's about kind of what they've been doing on offense so far. And it's not actually something I haven't brought this up yet.
We have not.
Even on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. I don't think I've talked about it at the Blue White Illustrated message board. I've been thinking about it. I don't know why I haven't mentioned this. Penn State, let's take you back to 2023. Drew Allard is the starting quarterback for the first time in his career after
Sean Clifford
moves on. And what they were doing is everyone was afraid of his big arm, and they know the running backs are good, so we saw this exact game plan. And what Penn State would do is when you're playing with 3 deep, you usually keep those corners 8 to 12 yards or 10 yards off the ball, somewhere in there, giving a cushion, and then they back up from there because their main responsibility is don't get beat deep, and don't get beat deep. But what if you never throw the ball deep? Because one of the things you can do against, it doesn't matter if it's quarters or it's cover 3, if you're playing off coverage, run to the end of that cushion, catch the ball, and then you get 6 free yards. And Penn State feasted on that for a good 5 weeks before they played Northwestern. And then everyone started to creep up, and they would attack those underneath throws. They'd show, bail, we're going to get out, and suddenly the ball is contested where 3 weeks earlier it was a wide open, easy completion. That's starting to happen already. That was what FIU did last week. They didn't necessarily fear Penn State's deep ball when they were given those looks and then attacking downhill. At a certain point, Kyle, they got to go with a double move.
We saw one double
They've
move.
got to do that.
We saw one all week from Devontae Ross, and that was it.
But it was a designed double move.
Yeah.
It was like it was baked into the play. And then like obviously a double move is baked into the play, but I mean it was designed where they were trying to draw everybody in the box in one-on-one coverage. I'm saying like in the course of adapting this offense to what you're seeing, I think that they've got to have some sort of call, some sort of thing between Aller and Kyron Hudson or Aller and
Trevor
Pena,
Ross, whoever.
And if they get like a guy who starts to get aggressive, they double move and they attack downfield. And that's another way you can create explosive plays where you don't have to just run by the guy and out-athlete him. That's a big part of this game plan that we didn't see in 2023 because he was a first-year starter. Something you'd expect out of your quarterback as a senior to be able to execute that.
Yes, and I think the big part of this is these are 3 really good route runners
and guys that can be on the same page. Like you're not gonna worry about those guys not getting it.
No, they all get it, and they're all good route runners, which is a big part of it because last season in 2023, Penn State didn't have route runners that were good enough at it that like they couldn't pull off the double move effectively. But Pena can, Hudson can, Ross can. Heck, Singleton can. So you've got 4 players pretty much at all times on offense who can pull off a really good double move, can get free downfield, and can make the defenders pay.
Yeah.
May as well do it now. Speaking of defenders, though.
Yeah, let's talk about the defense.
This defense, who for the 5th straight season, I believe James Franklin said, have now held a team scoreless in a game, which is incredible. Jim Knowles' defense did its job last week. People were annoyed at the offense for not being good enough. The defense held them to a goose egg.
Yeah, and there is. It's funny. That was the side of the ball that you would say played the cleaner of the two halves, given the fact that if Penn State gives up any points in the first half, and everyone's going, "Oh no," and they didn't.
Nope.
But it wasn't clean, and James Franklin talked about this the last 2 weeks, and I think I don't say overemphasized, but coaching emphasized this, that the defense is still thinking. And let me explain the difference between these two schemes from the Manny Diaz, Tom Allen adaptation of Manny Diaz, and then
Jim Knowles.
Jim Knowles, is that in the previous defense, they did not ask linebackers to read. They asked them to react. And Manny Diaz explained it as if I am asking you to guard 2 doors, how are you going to effectively guard that door when you've got to always have eyes in the back of your head? So they would always have a person for a gap. The offensive line and defensive run defense is built off of the gaps between the offensive linemen, and do you have a defender? So if the running back wants to run between these 2 guys, there's somebody with a helmet there to stop him. This defense asks the linebackers, and they're not like, it's not crazy like you're leaving the A-gap open, right up the center, but they're asked to read and react. So they have to know what the running formation is. They've got to know what the tendency of that is. So is it a left-handed or right-handed formation? If the running back is on the left side of the quarterback, there's only a certain number of schemes that go to the left, and there's only a certain number of schemes that go to the right, and I've got to know the percentages and what that's going to be. Previously, it was like, I have the A-gap, run to the A-gap. Like, make sure there's not an RPO behind me, but I'm running to the A-gap, and if they call a run blitz, it's I don't even care about the RPO, it's I run to the A-gap. That is causing 2 things. One, it's causing those linebackers to be a step slow, and sometimes they take their step the wrong way.
Which makes
left
sense.
or right.
Because they're waiting, they're trying to be, okay, well, this is happening here, so I've got to go here versus just going there.
Exactly. Yeah. And I would also give them credit that built into that was FIU liked to do RPOs, and they were being vigilant to not allow the RPO, which, again, makes you a little bit slower. The other thing that I think is a very important aspect of this that we're not talking a whole lot about is that the defensive line is being asked to hold the point of attack and actually absorb double teams in a way that Penn State did not do under Manny Diaz. They didn't do under Tom Allen. And it's not a perfect fit for all the players on the team, especially when you recruit guys that are 290 pounds, 287 pounds, and not big dudes, right?
Yeah.
Zane Durant has been in a lot of double team situations that he wasn't in last year because they're being asked to absorb those guys. We talked about it on the offensive side of the ball. Your job as an offensive lineman, 2 guys block 1 and then go to another. And before, Penn State would say play down the gap or play, not play down the middle or down the shoulder of an offensive lineman. You're trying to get into the gap. Now they're taking more contact. And so those interactions are now happening further down the field. So it means the linebackers have to react faster and to get those tackles for loss. So there's moving elements that everyone's doing something new for the first time
They are.
in this defense. And I think that maybe it's a little bit of a concern for the defensive line. Like, watch out for that in these games, that they may have to do this, and if it doesn't work, try something different, because these aren't the biggest offensive lines in the world they're facing through 2 weeks, and I've seen them struggle at times with those defensive, with those gap accountability things of, getting pushed down the field.
Yeah. And on the linebacker front and the safety front, we've discussed them. The defensive front, I want to get to this because James Franklin kind of hinted at it this week as well, saying we've been playing a lot of young guys, so we have been slow because of A, the linebackers, safeties having to think, but B, because we have a lot of young guys who are learning what decisions to make across the board. One of those young players I do want to bring up here on the show, I know, how dare I not bring him up yet, Chaz Coleman. Had the highest grade of any freshman, I believe, this past week in college football. He had a strip sack fumble recovery near touchdown that he almost had. He almost got there. He was real close, 5 yards away from doing it. What have you seen from him this past week that is now translating going forward to Penn State, where he can help out with Zariah Fisher, help out deny Dennis Sutton? Because Fisher was on a snap count last week. Franklin said he played more than he wanted him to, but he was on some sort of snap count going forward. He may be on less of one.
Yeah.
But Chaz Coleman,
He's been really good. So the first thing is young defensive ends. I'm going to start with the non-flashy stuff because I'm annoying, and I don't just start with, like, he's an awesome pass rusher.
How dare you?
I know. But, like, from a coaching perspective, if you don't trust a guy to be out there to stop the run and to be in his run fit and all those things, that is the first thing to get playing time, to understand that. And it's uncommon for a freshman defensive end so close to the football, playing against 23-year-old men who have been in a college football lifting and nutrition program for 3 to 5 years, to be able to hang with them. Oh, and by the way, he got here in May. It is freaky, the level of athleticism. And initially, maybe in the first couple drives, he was getting tossed around, a little bit big boyed by Nevada. And by the end of the game, he was pancaking guys. Like, he was driving offensive linemen in the backfield. So his run defense has been surprisingly good, where you can trust him to be out there in not just obvious pass rushing situations. You need to be able to do that to have him on the field for as many pass rushing snaps as possible, so that when he does go after the quarterback, he can do these things that most people don't even try. So here's a great example. And I'm seeing this now everywhere. And I don't know if this is Abdul Carter started this, but for like 3 years, I really didn't see many different pass rushing moves from Penn State defensive ends.
Okay.
They use speed and moves to the outside, and they would counter inside with like a pretty standard basic move. So it was like, just be really, really good at one or two things.
yes,
And last year, Abdul Carter started using a spin move late in the year.
he did.
And it was like, and it worked, by the way.
Yeah.
Chaz Coleman, in his first game, starts with spin moves, because this guy was a high-level basketball player.
He was.
So he's adapting basketball things into football. He's using a Euro step to get into a bull rush, which is just like he's planting with his outside foot and then exploding upfield into the tackle in a way that they're not expecting, because usually, like a bull rush, you just
Go
straight into them.
And now with the spin moves, he is using their center of gravity, shifting them where he wants to, and then planning, twisting, but doing it quick enough where he's getting beyond them, because a lot of players will do the spin moves, but they're too straight up, they're too upright. He's spinning, but getting down into it and exploding upwards,
And
giving him a little more momentum going forward.
Yeah, and it's the ability to tighten that rotation and make everything quick, because, you see some defensive ends spin, and all they're doing is giving their back to
They're
the
just spinning.
pass. Yeah. You have to be fast enough that when they try to get their hands on you, you've already rotated to the point that now you have the outs. Because the point of the spin move is to be on one side of them and then to get to the inside or the outside, wherever you're trying to go, faster than they can get their hands on you.
Yeah.
And so that's the unique ability of being a freak athlete like Chaz Coleman. And then the second thing is he's doing things that he's obviously been taught in camp, and he's executing them at a high level in the game. So his ability to use and chain multiple moves together. But the most important thing, and I think the most impressive thing, has been his awareness. So there was a play against Nevada where he tries to an inside move and it doesn't work. And normally when a move doesn't work for an offensive or for a defensive lineman, even for veterans, they kind of just go to now I'm in this gap and I'm just worried about containing the rush. Coleman was able to see that the quarterback was breaking outside because of pressure from the backside, and he was able to rip through that, get to the outside, and draw a holding penalty. So even though maybe he gave up his contain on that play, he recovered fast enough because his eyes are on the ball. He's not just thinking about, okay, I'm going to do this with this plan. It's, I'm going to do this with this plan, and I got that on. That's fine. I know what I'm doing there. So his eyes are up, and his awareness of what's going on with football is at a high level for a football player, not just for a freshman. Now, there's going to be stuff he hasn't seen before. That's the wild card in a couple of weeks. But in terms of like basic, he's mastering the basics, and in his second game, it's really impressive.
And he's doing things we have not seen just true freshmen do, and he's doing them at a high level. But he's also doing it alongside guys who have played really well so far this season. I know 2 games in, low-level teams, I get it. But Zane Durant, Alonzo Ford, Xavier Gillum. Again, we mentioned this last week. Did you have the 2 defensive tackles having the 2 interceptions on the season, Thomas Frank Carr? Did you predict that, sir?
Not only not only that, but the second one I thought was a screen, and it wasn't even a screen.
No.
It wasn't a screen. He just, he felt where he needed to be, and he got there, and he got his hands up, and there was so much pressure on the quarterback that it turned into a screen, basically. So it was
just crazy.
It is wild that you've got 2 interceptions on the season, and neither of them have come from anyone who lines up with their both hands off the line of scrimmage.
And they're playing really well. Xavier Gilliam is playing incredibly. I want to. What have you seen from him in this defensive front when Penn State is putting pressure on the quarterback, and they're not doing it with gigantic rushes, but they're just playing lights out? It feels like.
Yeah, and so they haven't. Here's the thing: is we just talked about Chaz Coleman and his ability to get pressure on the quarterback. So the first week and the second week are a little bit different, but they have one common thing, which is the quarterback refused to hold on to the football. There's no chance. The difference is Chubba Purdy tried to scramble and run, and the FIU quarterback,
Keon Jenkins, tried to take the hit and throw the ball sideways.
Got the ball out as fast as he could. There's just been less opportunities for a full 3-second pass rush, is what I'm trying to say. And when there has been, it's been late in the game when the game's over and the backups are in, and Chaz Coleman is part of the young guys making plays out there. So there is a little bit of Chaz Coleman has been shining in these moments, and the other guys haven't had as much of an opportunity to do that. But when they have, Xavier Gilliam, again, I'll start here with the pass rush instead of talking about run defense, because he's been very good in those double teams. His ability to have a second reaction on a play, I haven't seen a lot of defensive tackles be able to do that. Of the first thing that they do is try to get to the quarterback. It doesn't work, and then they got another move in their back pocket. So a young guy who used to play defensive end and is incorporating some of that understanding into what he does at defensive tackle. I've been waiting for a guy to have that combination of size and athleticism to be a complete defensive tackle. I think Zane Durant has an opportunity to do that this year. He hasn't had many opportunities, but he also has not done it. So there's a little bit of a hopefully this is a game where he can just get some of the rhythm, some of that juice, some of the things that we're talking about Penn State fans want out of this game. I think it's good for the players as well to just get a bunch of winning reps.
Yeah.
And so for those defensive tackles, Xavier Gilliam's been great. I think he's been an all-around player. Ford has been very good. Zane Durant's been very good. I think the conversation around Zane Durant is more about his future than what he's doing right now.
It's a lot like he's going to go to the NFL. How high can he get in the draft, and how good can he be in the NFL? He's still in college and has a full season to play.
Yeah.
So pull it back a little bit. It happened a little with Abdul Carter last season, but I think his injury kind of affected it a little bit and chilled it out.
And he wasn't as good in the beginning of the season. The amazing thing is we got to watch him in real time become a third overall pick because he was an athlete playing the position, and then suddenly he turned into a D end by the end of the season.
Yes.
And I think that's also a part of the 16-game thing where you just get so many more opportunities if you're going to be playing that late in the year. And so Zane Durant wants to be a draft pick, and he doesn't want to be a late-round draft pick. And as a smaller guy, he's got to do things and show stuff that says, I'm one of the outliers and exceptions, because we've seen guys with his body type go in the top 10, go in the first round, go in the third round. Yeah. It doesn't have to be the first round, but there hasn't been the opportunity, and he hasn't forced the opportunity upon the offense to show those pass rushing or extreme athletic moves in the run or the pass game. And part of that is he's not being given the opportunity in the run game to make those splash plays, which is what we saw of him in the previous defense. So there's a little bit of circumstance.
Yeah.
There's a lot of circumstance.
A lot of circumstance.
A lot of circumstance. And also that development, we'll see where it is later. Like there's more games to play.
Speaking of development, the safety position is one we have not gotten to yet. They are still workshopping a lot here. I mean, the safeties, as we've seen, you have Zachy Wheatley, and then you've got the rest of the safety group who we've been seeing play. Antoine Belgrave-Shorter, Day Lane, King Mack. They're all getting involved, getting work. And against Oregon, it's going to be a very different ball game than it is against Villanova, or it has been against Nevada and FIU. What are we kind of looking at when it comes to the safeties for Penn State getting into this game? What are we watching for? What have we not seen? What have we seen yet from this team? Like, where are we going here?
So it's more than just the starter opposite Zachy Wheatley. It's also his backup. So, there's more than one spot that they're competing for at the moment. So it does kind of get a little bit it's interesting. I've really enjoyed it, watching it on film, and I've been doing more of my own charting of where people are lining up than I have in a long time. So basically, week 1, Dejon Lane was Zachy Wheatley's backup. And at that field safety position, which I think I've described before, that's the really important position in this defense that a lot of the defense is centered around. The scheme's kind of built around that idea. And then this last week, it was Antoine Belgrave-Shorter, who's also the starter opposite of him in the last 2 games. So it's really been a battle for those backup positions, and it's Lane and Mack for the backup behind Belgrave-Shorter, and I think that there's a backup battle behind Wheatley. Now, not to say that the starting job is also not open, but I think Belgrave-Shorter's been good enough that I haven't seen anything change from where they were in camp to what he's been able to do on the field. He's been very clean. Of the 3, he's made the fewest mistakes, but he maybe hasn't made the most plays.
He's been safe. Sense. He's been a little safe. He's not.
It's in the name of the position, right? It's a safety. And by the way, you don't need to be risking things to make plays.
Yes.
You just need to have the instincts to know what you're seeing and what you should be attacking and what is the offense trying to pull you out of position.
Yeah.
I would say that's where Dejon Lane has struggled a little bit, is he's been biting on play fakes. He's been a little bit all over the place because he's so hungry to make a play. And that's where, talking about Belgrave-Shorter, he doesn't seem like he's in a hurry or he's not trying to go out of his way to make a play. He's letting the game come to him. And then King Mack has been really good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that there's any question
great.
that he's made tackles in the run game. He's good in pursuit. He had that critical 4th down pass breakup. Some of the stuff is late in the game.
Yeah.
But he's also, last week he was out there. He's been the consistent number 3 in the rotation at that field safe or boundary safety, which is the one opposite of Zachy Wheatley.
You can trust him to get 10 to 15 reps a game. You can put him in and no, I'm not going to see anything bad happen here.
Well, we haven't seen anything bad happen here. We haven't. There have been some things in his past where there has been that, but not so far for Penn State. And so I think this is my question is, do we see a difference in the rotation today? Has the last 2 games changed anything where I don't expect Belgrave-Shorter to not be the starter, but is King Mack the second guy out there? I think he's played well enough that I would want to see that if I were a coach.
Yeah.
And then in that other position, I don't think he's going to see any snaps at the field safety. I think it's going to be one of those 2 starters. But who gets more of those snaps today? If this is the final preseason game, what's the closest we can learn to what the depth chart is going to be when they tighten the rotation? Because against Oregon, you can't make mistakes.
No.
Even if you're on the backside of the play. There's been a couple of times where Dejon Lane's mistakes, you haven't seen them on TV because there's 3 defenders in the quarterback's face. That won't be the case against Oregon. And if there's a guy running free on the backside of the play, is Dante Moore going to find that guy? And that's where I think this consistency and who's going to play the best in this game, how does that all grade out for Penn State? It's a really important day to me for those 3 players to establish, kind of solidify what we've seen so far in that battle for snaps. It's not just starter, it's the snaps you're going to play during the regular season. And I think that they're starting to determine that. I want to see the final conclusion of that today.
And we're going to get a little bit more of that coming up here on the Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships Tailgate Show. Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships studying more than 40 years of service to the community. Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships has a vehicle to fit your budget and transportation needs. Home of the $1,000 lowest price guarantee with 20 locations throughout Pennsylvania. And coming on up here on the Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships Tailgate Show on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus. Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, streaming live all the time on the Blue Illustrated YouTube channel. We're going to get over to the rest of Penn State sports because there have been a lot of them going on around here. So it's time for This Week in Penn State Sports, brought to you by Miller's Hoagies.
It's more than just football at Penn State. Here's This Week in Penn State Sports, brought to you by Miller's Hoagies.
Penn State sports had itself a big roller coaster week. 8th-ranked PSU women's soccer team kicked off its Big Ten schedule by dismantling the Maryland Terrapins 4-0 on Thursday at Jeffrey Field. Aubrey Culpa grabbed 1 goal and a trio of assists on her way to a dominant afternoon alongside Caitlin McBean, who captured a brace of goals. Women's soccer takes on the Nebraska Cornhuskers next Thursday right here in Happy Valley at Jeffrey Field. Penn State women's volleyball sophomore setter and star Izzy Stark announced she is stepping away from volleyball for mental health purposes. The AVCA National Freshman of the Year and Big Ten Freshman of the Year in 2024 led the Nittany Lions on their drive to the NCAA championship crown. Graduate student transfer Addie Lyon has been starting in Stark's place. Katie Schumacher-Cawley's crew takes on Pitt on Wednesday in Rec Hall. Micah Parsons has started his campaign in Green Bay in red-hot fashion. The Packers and Parsons moved to 2-0 on the season following a Thursday night win against Jaden McDaniels and the Washington Commanders 27-18. Micah is already up to 1.5 sacks on the season for his new color of green. Abdul Carter and Theo Johnson line up against Parsons' former team, the Dallas Cowboys, this coming Sunday at 1 p.m. in the Lone Star State for the New York Giants. That was This Week in Penn State Sports. Back to the Tailgate Show in a moment.
Stop by your local Kubota dealer today. Right now, bring home select Kubota equipment with 0% financing available or save up to $4,500.
Hold on. Speaking of,
I think it's more of a comfort of the unknown more so than anything. Like we did this with Denmark all last year, and you caught 2 or 3 passes. You know, I think it's a situation where you don't know, or you like what you don't know, and then you see those guys and you're like, okay, well, that didn't fundamentally change some things. And yeah, it's like Nate's theory a couple of weeks ago. There's only enough snaps, like there's only enough reps to go around, and you want to get Ross ready. Like that was an emphasis last week. I think it was pretty clear of an emphasis last week. You want to get those 3 guys on the page with Drew Aller, because that's the stuff that matters against Oregon, against Ohio State, against these Big Ten teams, is how does that passing game work with them out there? I just don't see the gap being covered by those 2 guys to make this a completely explosive offense, or to make it a completely functional offense. I think that the receivers, specifically the transfer receivers, have been fine with that.
Yeah. And also, when we're talking about the passing offense and distributing snaps to all the positions, if you're now talking about 5 receivers, and we'll just, for the fantasy, take out Liam Clifford from the conversation and insert Kobe Howard, Tyseer Denmark. Now you got 5 receivers, you've got 2 tight ends minimum, and you've got 2 running backs. That is too many mouths to feed. So I think also from a overall target distribution priority, they're in a good spot right now. Devontae Ross hasn't got as much work maybe as the other top 2 receivers, but part of that was shifting the plan last week in the second half for a bunch of game flow reasons. So I guess the last thing, we're coming up to the end of the show. I want to circle back personally. Sorry, go ahead.
We got a quick circle back here. You look at the snaps that Khalil Dinkins and Luke Reynolds have played as well. That's going to impact receiver snaps. It's going to impact, it's sort of going to have a ripple effect on everyone in the passing game. I think you're pretty pleased with those 2 right now, and Andrew Applegate as well. But I think I remember 74 snaps for Dinkins, 73 snaps for Luke Reynolds. So a lot of different personnel groupings. They've played 3 tight ends, so I think it's going to cut down on that. And also, usually when subs happen at wide receiver during the drive, it's because somebody's run deep and they tap out. You know, that's the kind of thing we haven't really seen a ton of.
Yeah, and playing 2 tight ends a lot also then allows you to take one of those receivers off the field and not replace them with another receiver. Now that we're here to the end of the show, a couple minutes here to talk about how it happens this weekend for Penn State football. Fitz, give me your score prediction, how you think this game is going to go.
What a remarkable rundown you put together, because you put the scores for Ryan, you, and I all in there, and we all have Penn State scoring 52 points. It's right? Amazing, because I didn't look at your I don't think your prediction was in when I put mine in. I didn't even look at Ryan's and Greg's and those things. But 52 seems to be the lucky number. 52-6 is what I have. I think they continue to work on the things that they're going to work on. I think it has
The big one right now, Oregon up 17-zip over Northwestern. No surprises there. Wisconsin is down 21-zip against Alabama. Bama is turning it on. Ty Simpson, 13 for 14, 192 yards, 2 touchdowns on the day. Not too shabby if you are the Crimson Tide looking to bounce back. Michigan is up 35-3 over Central Michigan. No Sharon Moore, no problem there. Nebraska's up 38-zip on Houston Christian in the second quarter. Maryland up 34-zip on Towson. And the games last night, Indiana beat Indiana State 73-zip. And then the score of the Clemson game, we will get to that in a moment, sir. The other game, though, the one with the single funniest storyline, Thomas Frank Carsurf, I told you I would give you $3 million to go and be the reporter for Bishop Sycamore. Would you do it if it meant that you're covering Bishop Sycamore?
Wait, how much?
$3 million.
Yeah, I don't want to undersell myself, but yes. Yes,
Because-
I don't know how it took me that long. Yes.
Because I think that's what happened with Nico Yamaleava, that he was like, you know what, Tennessee's great,
Yeah.
but like UCLA. UCLA is where it's at. And they lost 35-10 last night. He didn't look great again.
Yeah.
Neither did UCLA again.
Yeah.
Because, spoilers, UCLA is not good
Yeah.
at football. And they come here in, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 3 weeks?
Penn State
4 weeks' time?
Penn State goes out to UCLA for the first road game after the
Yes.
whiteout versus Oregon.
October 4th.
Yeah.
And that was us going around the Big Ten, powered by Valley View Retirement Community. Other games coming up, USC Purdue, Norfolk State Rutgers, Youngstown State, Michigan State, Ohio State, Western Michigan, Illinois, Mass versus Iowa, Minnesota versus Cal. A lot of games going on, a lot of things happening, but the big one, UCLA is terrible at football. And sadly for that man, he tried to ask me for the Clemson score in the middle of me talking.
Been a lot of that today. By
Yes.
the way, I always tell people, either at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com or on the show during the week, come say hi and be here to say hello to us. And I'm just like blown away at the number of people that have come over and said hi, and I'm super thankful. Maybe don't do it when we're live on air. We had one gentleman who was really nice who wanted to say hi, and I was very grateful for that. And I don't want to be like, hey, but like Kyle had to cover for me, so I appreciate that. We also have the availability report.
It is
which
here.
is out right now.
Who is on it?
Pretty much the same group as last week. We'll just run this down quickly. Caden Saunders, Lyric Samuel, Josiah Brown, the receivers taking a hit, obviously. Max Granville, Beckham Kritza. Some of these guys have been out long term. Malachi Williams out for this game. So that's a new one. Kari Jackson is out. Caleb Artist is out. He was out last week as well. Same with Brady O'Hara. Also on this list for the first week is Andrew Olesh will not be available today. And then DeAndre Cook, Penn State defensive tackle, not in the game. Jordan Mayer out as well. That's not the complete list, but those are the names that stood out to me as far as new or interesting, because the young receivers, Peter Gonzalez out again this week. So there's it's a little thinner there of guys that might see the field later in the game. And then I do think it's interesting, again, if you want to see some of the young guys, we're not going to see Andrew Olesh today of those three young three young tight ends.
No, we will not. And you know what? I'm not getting into the Clemson score. That man walked away before I can get to it.
What is it? I'm curious.
Georgia Tech is up 13-7 on Clemson at halftime. Haynes King is winning the game.
It could be
for
worse.
Georgia Tech.
I mean, it's Kate Klubnik and Drew Aller were linked together in the class of 2022. Both seniors came back, and
speaking of those,
hasn't been great. Has not been great for Clemson this year.
No, it is not. But speaking of those linked to Drew Aller, Bo Pribula, Missouri up 20-zip over Louisiana. He is 6 for 6, 75 yards and 1 passing touchdown, and just ran for a 14-yard rushing touchdown as well. So Bo's Heisman candidacy is cooking.
Yeah,
he's getting there so far.
Yeah, and that segment is called "Yeah, but Bo," which has been a common theme on the internet with Penn State football fans.
We've been asked about him twice today.
Yeah,
2 people asked about Bo Pribula, and I was like, hey, calm down. Bo plays the other side of the Mississippi River, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So, like, Penn State fans, you can chill out a little bit. He's not here right now.
Yeah.
Bo Pribula is not here. So let's calm down. Let's relax a little bit. Okay, it's fine.
Take me into that Oregon game and tell me a little bit more about, because Northwestern, I think, is an interesting situation for Oregon. I want to see how that first Big Ten slate is going for them.
So when it comes to Oregon versus Northwestern right now, we've got Dante Moore's 13 for 16 in the air, 125 yards, 1 touchdown pass. That one is to Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end, who tore up Penn State when they took on Oregon this past season. The receiver is Decorian Moore, has 49 yards, 4 catches, a 20-yarder for him. Malik Benson, 2 for 32. The running backs, Jaden Lamar is 10 for 33 with 1 rushing touchdown on the day for him. They have 18 carries, 69 yards, and 1 touchdown by the running backs. The defense, they do have 1 sack by Uyangalele and the tackle for loss, of course. 1 pass deflected by Botcher, or the linebacker, I believe. I definitely butchered his name.
It might be Butcher.
Might be Butcher.
You butchered Botcher's name?
I butchered Botcher's name. So they're playing well. Preston Stone does have 1 fumble on the day, and Northwestern is Preston Stone's playing.
Yeah,
Again.
They were so good against Oklahoma. Oklahoma State. Also, I was watching that film. Oklahoma State was awful. Like it is, you got to have both of those to have a 70-point game early in the game. Again, so I've talked a little bit about coverages and I've talked a little bit about defense. So, we mentioned how you defend Penn State, right? Like you stack the box at flood underneath coverage and you play only 3 players deep. Their job is to be the deepest of the deep, and if anyone goes deep, you've got to be deeper than them. In the first half against Oregon, they kind of forgot that. They just were like, nobody's back there if you want to go hang out in the end zone, I guess. So, busted coverages aren't just the offense being good.
It's a two-way street.
It is a two-way street. And, I know nobody wants to hear Nevada played good coverage, but they did. Their whole thing was, we will not let you get deep. And Oklahoma State's whole thing was, we're not good at football.
Aww.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It is, if you're watching one of the fastest freshmen in America run at you, you should be backpedaling. You shouldn't be running to the sideline. And, I don't know. I know. It's one of those things. Also, Oregon, in that game, Kenyon Sadiq
has a touchdown.
Tyler Warren snaps under center against Oklahoma State. So that's going to be a thing, I think, in college football now. Lots of teams are going to be using their option quarterback, their big, physical, athletic freak tight end. And Kenyon Sadiq, explosive, big, strong. I think he's going to be a problem for Penn State in a couple of weeks.
He's going to be a problem for Penn State in a few weeks. So, Oregon's playing well. The other games in the Big Ten, we kind of talked about those. Other games going around the nation. Auburn's up 21-3 over South Alabama. Jackson Arnold is 6 for 13 on the day, which isn't great.
No.
500 is not a great passing percentage to have, if I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I'm not good at numbers.
Sub 60 is bad, and when you're sub 50, that's worse. Yeah.
So he's not playing well. Ty Simpson now has 3 touchdowns on Wisconsin, 28-7 there, 14-15, 267 yards for them. Ryan Williams just had a touchdown catch. If I can find the exact number, I believe for Ryan Simpson it was if I can find it, 75-yarder.
It's pretty
not
good.
bad.
Yeah.
He's healthy again. And we will get to our predictions for Penn State and a lot more Penn State stuff here, Mr. Thomas Frank Carr, coming up after a little bit of a break here on the Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by the Blaze Alexander family of dealerships on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, and streaming live on the Blue Illustrated YouTube channel. We'll come back in a moment with our predictions. Penn State, Villanova.
There was some good stuff yesterday. I think the internet is still hyping up what we saw from Chaz Coleman Fitz. So you were over there with the one-on-ones. I was with the receivers because if I'm going to get video, I don't want to be shooting through players. But looked like there's some interesting things on the defensive side of the field. So why don't you take us there and start us off?
Chaz Coleman, man. Yeah, you just keep going back to it, and you feel that it's not a matter of time because he's already kind of broken out, but you're looking at the special things that he can do. It's I think he's going to be a good player, and 2 games into his career is that a given, which is crazy to say, of course, but the things that he does are special. Last night, he set up Drew Shelton and knocked him on his backside. That is a starting left tackle that's been starting for a couple of years, a good player. And a freshman comes in and, hey, balances everything when you're an offensive lineman, when you're in your pass set. But at the same time, seeing a true freshman charging over a senior is there's something to that there. So everybody keeps asking me if he's going to take 11 from LeVar Arrington II. That's a really interesting dynamic here. I don't give any thought to it, but it's just a funny thing when you look at how dominant he's been in the short time that we've seen him, and you don't see too many players like this. So continuing to see Chaz Coleman on that rocket ship that he's on right now is quite fun. I think it's been a really interesting ride from. Hey, I was at camp this summer, and he's huge. Like he stands out as a true freshman. He looks skinny out there in pads. We knew he would. Every true freshman defensive end that's come through has been that guy. But at the same time, I was talking to one of his coaches from Warren Harding, and I'm like, hey, this guy, he's something, right? He's like, well, he's got to learn to work his hands, and then maybe we'll see what happens. He's pretty raw, and that's coming from guys that coached him, and then all of a sudden he gets to campus, and Penn State coaches are like, oh my. Wow. Okay. Yeah, we'll work on his hands. That's fine. We'll take that. And everything else seems to be great. And it's just to get someone that explosive, on as a senior riser evaluation job. I think that's pretty incredible, especially given that Ohio State did come through with an offer and Penn State was able to fight them off. I think that's a incredibly, incredibly positive thing for Penn State. Yeah. And you're continuing to look at this and say, okay, well, the defensive line for the next couple of years, they can all stay together. They can all stay healthy. Of course, Max Granville's on the shelf this year. If they can do that, man, they're going to continue to do some special things. So,
can I jump in here?
What's that?
Just quick. Can I jump in about Chaz Coleman and his hand usage and some of the things that I've noticed through the first 2 weeks. You mentioned what he did to Drew Shelton. The idea that a freshman would have the awareness to use a bull rush and not only use it, but use it effectively against a senior. When we say there's an innate sort of thing, it almost discredits his ability to learn quickly, because like certain things here are like he took them directly from basketball and then used them as pass rusher, even if they're not perfectly adapted from one to the other. And then there's stuff he's clearly learned.
It's about that time here on the show. We are 10 minutes from wrapping on up. Kyle F., Thomas Frank Carr on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus, Bigfoot Country, 103.7, 104.3, and streaming live all the time on the Blue Illustrated YouTube channel. It is time to get to our predictions. We have been a little hot, a little high. Mr. Thomas Frank Carr the past few weeks going real high on these numbers, but it is time for our predictions, powered by Metzler Forest Products Landscape Center. Penn State is favored by 48.5 points in this game. That's a lot. That hasn't scored 48 points this season.
Yeah. Wait, what was it?
46.
46.
They haven't gotten 48 points.
Yeah, because it's weird because of all the field goals. Yeah, that's a good
they're
point.
favored by 48.5. Can they get their single season high at least today against Villanova and the Wildcats?
I think so. I said this earlier this week. I've been burned.
You have been.
By some of those high point totals not coming true. Mm-hmm. And as we've talked about on the show, there's been some reasons why they have, gotten those explosive plays at the end of the game. This has got to be the game. I think just from obviously it's an FCS team, but all those things combined of working on all those things, putting it all together, having a cohesive final tune-up, making everyone feel better, 52-3. I'm still not going in the 60s. I'm a little scared. I want to say it. 52-3.
We have someone shouting 60s. He's also carrying a pillow with him, which is a decision to make. I guess he wants to fall asleep in the middle of the third quarter, possibly.
I don't know.
I agree with you. I think 60 is a high number, but I think I want to get real close to that 60. I think 60 is a good number to get to, so why not make it 58-6? I think the defense is going to give up something. It could be a touchdown, and the team will go for Villanova will go for a 2-point conversion and mess that up, or 2 field goals. Either way, I don't think they get more than 6 points, Nova, but I think Penn State gets close to that 60 number. I think we're looking at a big touchdown day. I think we're looking at 8 touchdowns. I think they'll get something cooking today. I believe you and I will be able to watch Drew Aller and this receiver core get started faster. I think today Penn State will see Ethan Grunkmeyer take the field in the third quarter.
In the third?
Big prediction. Third quarter. Third quarter Grunk.
Early third quarter Grunk.
Third quarter Grunk.
I mean, it would be great to get Jackson Smolik on the field as well.
It would be.
Having a 3-quarterback day, I expected to see that once in the non-conference. And this is the last chance. So I think that's a good point.
We also have not mentioned Villanova a lot today. You know what? We'll give not some love to the Nova Wildcats, but we'll at least say is going to play for them.
Sure.
Their quarterback, Pat McQuaid, came in from, I believe, Nicholls State.
Yeah.
He had 299 yards in the air last week for them. I believe they played Colgate
They
if I'm
did.
not mistaken.
He's a good quarterback.
quarterback.
Yeah, like I like the things he does. He's decisive with the football. It's just a lot of the things, and he's athletic. He can run.
Yes.
He had an explosive rushing touchdown on a 4th down play that was really good. It's just like against Colgate versus what's the room they're going to be. Like I think he could look good in the same way that Keon Jenkins looked good, maybe not to that level, but get the ball out of his hands quickly, be decisive, not take sacks. But I don't know what more than that. You know?
Their receiver, the guy to watch, Lou Colella, 5 catches on 24 yards last week for them. He came in from Princeton, so he's a transfer receiver. I believe he's at their grad student or he's in his last season. So he's the guy to watch outside. The running back, David Avitt, good running back, 15 of 49 last week. Not a great yardage percentage-wise, but he's good running back. He had a couple 100 yarders last season for them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the players to watch for Villanova. We really didn't talk about them until the end of the show. We were just kind of like, oh, yeah.
So here's the thing. I would say that we talked about them right off the top of the show, talking about their scheme.
They scheme,
which I think is
defense.
And the players play in said scheme.
They do.
But it is hard when Colgate is the opponent, and that's the only game they played this year. So they did not play in week 1.
No, they did not.
And so there's a little bit of, I don't want to say unknown, but just kind of, it doesn't, it's so rude to say it doesn't matter. But it's kind of one of those things where you're trying to understand what they're trying to do, so that how that affects Penn State over who's going to cause Penn State a problem. Because usually when we're talking about the other team, for most people's time, they want to know who the threats are.
They do.
And respectfully, on this team, it's not even the same as what we saw from the other two, where there are not a lot of threats. And Nevada, I didn't think had a whole lot of threats either, right?
No.
And so it's less about them for that reason of what are you going to highlight for fans to know, number 78 or their left tackle is a decent football player, but I don't think he's a decent football player for FCS football and looks like a left tackle.
Yes. I do want to ask you one question, sir. Give me one name. I know we already gave our key matchups. We already talked about that.
Yeah.
Give me one name, one human being for the Penn State Nittany Lions you think will have a big game today. Or at least impress us.
Luke Reynolds. I think.
Okay.
I'm going to say Luke Reynolds. Khalil Dinkins is on the table for me, but I just think he was very impressive last week. And here's the thing. People want to say, who's the starting tight end? It's tight end 1, tight end 2. And the reality is in a 2 tight end offense, they play different roles. I've previously said they play different positions, and then people kind of push back on that, and they can both play both positions. Khalil Dinkins is the Y tight end, meaning he lines up on the line of scrimmage next to the tight end, blocks defensive ends. You've got Luke Reynolds playing the H. He's the H-back. He's moving around. He's in the slot. When they go into a 2 tight end set, you know who's in the slot? Luke Reynolds is in the slot. So if I'm going to say that they want to stretch the field horizontally and pull players out of the box to run the ball, it's going to be Luke Reynolds doing that. It can be Khalil Dinkins. They can go to a 4-receiver set with 2 tight ends because Andy Koldnicki is the king of chaos and will do whatever he wants. But if you're going to, on the balance of things, I would say it's Luke Reynolds.
Luke Reynolds. I'm gonna give you another name on that offensive side of things.
Yeah.
We haven't seen him have a big explosive play yet this season. Everyone's favorite line to ask, when is Nick Singleton going to have it? Today's that day.
I think that's
80-yarder.
That's a good one. That's
80 yards.
He
Give me it.
has been wanting it so bad.
He's been like a shoelace away 4 different times in 2 games. And I'm like, if Nick Singleton breaks that hand right there and just gets through it, 60 yards 6 times. And I'm just waiting for it.
I think that there's one thing we've talked a lot about this week that we really haven't talked about is Nick Singleton. There is an aspect of talking to Stan Drayton and what he's asking of Nick Singleton that I think is making him also play a little bit slower. We're talking about the defense playing a little slower. The running backs coach specifically wants the running backs now to think and look at the game like their offensive linemen, meaning everything I talk about here, right, of where they're lining up, what gap is going to be available based on those things. That's what he's thinking about, and so they want him to just go play. Today, I think, is the day that he just lets it go and he drops the hammer.
That he will. And we are now going to turn the microphones on over to Steve Jones, Jack Ham, the dudes who...
The hammer?
The hammer.
Look at that.
Throwing it on over to him. That'll wrap it up for myself, Kyle F., Thomas Frank Carr. Shout out to all the people who help us out here. Angela, Chris, Ronnie, Real Deal, Garrett back in studio, getting the job done here on 99.5, 107.5 The Bus. Bigfoot Country Legends, 103.7, 104.3, streaming live on the Blue Illustrated YouTube channel. That'll do it for us here on the Penn State Tailgate Show, driven by Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships. For now, we will see you coming up here in Beaver Stadium. Kyle F., Thomas Frank Carr, signing out.